LakelandCarKeys.com. I'm currently working on a 2002 Toyota Sequoia. This is all keys lost. If you need the key code to cut the blade, you could pull the handle on the passenger side and the key code will be stamped on the lock. This one, I used my NASDAQ credentials and pulled the key code by VIN number. Some of the plastics on that door over there were brittle and they looked like they were getting ready to break, so I didn't want to risk breaking anything, so I just brought the key code on these Sequoias, I believe from 03 up until maybe about 05, 06 maybe. There's certain years that they have to be done by EEPROM. You can't just plug in like a normal car with the programmer, plug in and program the car. I thought this customer told me this was a 2002. That's why I was going to bust out and try to do it with the programmer. But when I couldn't read anything, I looked at the registration. It said it was a 2004. So on 2004s, there's a little emo box. And it's back here behind the gauge cluster. It's right here. So what you need to do is, there's a little black plastic trim here. This trim that has two Phillips screws up the top. You want to take those two Phillips screws out and pull this out. It does have some retaining clips on the bottom. And then once you pull that out, there are 4 screws that hold the cluster in. You want to take those out and remove the cluster, and then you'll be able to get at the Immobilizer box. So I'm going to get the cluster out and then I'll show you how the Immobilizer box is sitting in there. So as you can see, I sort of angled the cluster. So what I did was I turned it back this way and then took the driver side out and moved it up. And then there are 3 connectors on the back. We could just go ahead and unclip those and pull the cluster the rest of the way out. Alright, so the cluster's out and this is the Immobilizer box. It's on a little metal bracket down here on the bottom. I actually pulled this forward a little bit. It was like that, but you know, that box will have a little give, and I believe that metal bracket is just held on by 110mm down there. But I'm going to see if I can just pop these tabs out and pull the box out the bracket, and then we can go inside and do the EEPROM work. Alright, so now I'm inside. I got everything taken apart, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the process of how I make these keys. Now I got 2 keys here. Whenever I do an EEPROM job, I always tell the customer they have to get 2 keys. You know, I want them to understand that, you know, this is a tedious job. Not tedious, but it's a more complex job, and you know, you should always have 2 keys to your car. And if you end up losing 1 key, you have another key that we don't have to go through this whole process of pulling the emo box. I could either clone a copy or, you know, do a different procedure to add a key in, but you have to have a working key in order to do that. So, you know, I always tell them if something happens to 1 key, get a second key made. It'd be a lot cheaper than, you know, what you had to pay me to pull modules and do all this EEPROM stuff. Alright, so this is the EEPROM board that comes out of the box. The box has this little cover on it. It just has 2 plastic tabs. You just pop these out and then the board slides out. And what we are looking for is this 8-leg EEPROM right here. I'm not sure if you can see the writing on it, but yep. So it's a 9.3 LC66. Now, some of the translation and the moving around and these Chinese programmers aren't always up to par, I should say. I'm gonna power this on. And sometimes, you know, things aren't what they should be. So I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna give you a couple of points from within this. So from the main screen, I'm going to go ahead and scroll over, and I have, alright, so I have the mini prog pen, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into EEPROM and Flash, and we are going to select microchip. Alright, I'm going to check microchip as the brand. And then we scroll down the bottom, you got 93LCXX. So we'll go ahead and select that, and then we can select the actual chip that we have. So we're going to go 93LC66, the A, and we're going to choose the 8-pin model. Alright, and then we can choose between adapter, pressure, and because we're using a mini prog, I got the pressure pin here. I'm going to go ahead and select pressure. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and select read. It tells us to clean off the EEPROM and to get number 1 pin on the number 1 pin on the EEPROM. So these connectors they don't have the number 1 labeled. This one I'm actually going to mark it. So with the pin facing forward, I believe this connector will only go in one way, and then your front left pin will be pin number 1. Alright, our start button's on the back, so we're going to hold it like this. We're going to apply the pressure, and then when we're ready to read, we could click the start button, or we could click it start from the programmer. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and select start operation. It's going to connect from Bluetooth. And when we read the file with the mini prog, we can save the file and upload it to the cloud into our Xhorse cloud storage. And then that way, if I need to get it to my laptop or to my Key 2 Plus, I can just pull it from there. But because we're directly connected Bluetooth here, it's just going to go ahead and send it over to the device. So we're going to start operation, and then it'll start initializing and loading the program into the mini prog pin that we need. And then when it tells us to, we can go ahead and apply the pressure. Alright, we can apply the pressure, and I could either hit continue there, or as the picture's indicating, hit the start button in the back. Go ahead and click the start button, and it's reading and it's verifying. So right there we got unknown verification, error failed. So something, maybe the pin wasn't just lined up. So I am gonna go ahead and try to do it again. And when it does get a good read, it'll bring up a box to save the file name. Alright, so I'm just gonna clean up these pins just a little bit better, and we'll go ahead and read this file. Alright, so I got the file read and it's saved. We're actually going to back out of this because we're not going to use this pin programmer for the next part. We're going to go ahead and switch to the programmer on our Key 2 Max Pro. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into Emo Data Tool. Alright, we'll select Asia. And then I'll scroll down to Toyota, and we will look at Sequoia. Now, this is what I was talking about. I'm not sure what exactly is the issue with the labeling. I've had this issue before where I've done other Toyotas, that were like this, and it only will work on if I select the Emo Box 2005 93666. I'm not sure what's the difference between the 04 and the 05 labeled here. The vehicle was a 04, but it doesn't work under that. So I'm going to go ahead and select Emo Box. Alright, and then we can start execution. So now it's going to bring us to our mini prog file folder, where we can go ahead and look up files. Alright, so that's today's date. We're going to go ahead, and this very top file is what we read. So we're going to go ahead and select it. So when we select a file, it shows us, alright, so this vehicle has up to 6 keys. Key 1 and key 2 were previously used. I assume both of those are master keys. And at some point, somebody programmed key number 5, which to skip 3 and 4 and put a key in the slot 5 just must have been another EEPROM job at some point. Someone else did. They added a key. But because we're using the Xhorse tool, this key that I cut here was just a shell, and I put a Xhorse super chip in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select key number 1, such that should definitely be a quote-unquote master key. And I'm going to put my super chip key in the programmer, and then we're going to go ahead and make dealer key. And because the VVDI super chip is selected, it's going to copy the key information to this key and essentially quote-unquote clone it. Now this is a regular 4C chip key, and if we want to add it into the file now, we can select 4D. Actually, I'm going to do that next. We're going to select 4D, we're going to program this into the file, and then we're going to write that file back to the chip. Now, had I just, had 2 super chips and clone any of the keys that were available in there, I wouldn't have to write back to this. I could just pop this box back in, pop the key in, and the vehicle should start. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK. Alright, so you got to watch down the bottom. It's starting to make the key. It tells you to please wait. And it does take a little bit more time than a regular key clone. Alright, so it took about 15 seconds, and it says prepare dealer key success. This can now start the engine. So we're going to hit OK. Alright, so I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to select the file again. Alright. And I'm going to see if it lets me add in this regular 4C chip into the file. And then we'll save a copy. Alright, so I'm not sure what happened there. It had errored out, but basically, so this is our 4C chip. I am going to put it there, and I'm going to try to put it in key slot 3. Alright, I'm going to select make dealer key, select it as the 4C chip. That's weird. This is telling me it should be 4D. Actually, you know what? You're right. I've been calling it a 4C chip. I've been saying it wrong. It is a 4D, and actually, I did cut this as a 4C blade. So, very important. Pay attention to what you're doing. Sometimes, things like this. The guy originally told me it was an O2, which would have been a 4C chip. I cut a 4C chip, and it didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work was because we're actually a 04, which is a 4D. And when I used the super chip, it automatically set the super chip as a 4D when I went in and copied that programming. So just give me 1 second. I am going to grab another 4D chip to put into the shell, and we can go ahead and program it into the programmer. Alright, so I just ran out to my van. I grabbed another 4D67 chip, and I'm going to select OK. Alright, and it says prepare dealer key success. It could start the engine. We just got to write the new dump file back. We're going to select OK. And then it's going to ask us where we want to save our file. So we're going to save here. And I'm just going to put new in the front. Alright, so just saved it as a file that can be recognized. We're going to click save, and then click OK. And now what we want to do is we want to go back and write this file back to our emo box. All right, so we're going to go back into the mini prog, and we're going to go EEPROM and flash, select microchip 93LC66X, and we're going to select 93LC66A 8-pin. We're using pressure, and then we will go ahead and write this back. All right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hit write. I don't even think it asked. Did it ask us to select the file? All right, so we're gonna go under start operation. We gotta connect our Bluetooth again. All right, Bluetooth, start operation. All right, so now let's select a file, and then we are gonna select local file because it should be on this device. And that was our new file that we just saved. We're gonna go ahead and write that file. Hit start operation, and then once it tells us to apply the pressure and hit the start button, that's when we can go ahead and load our pin onto the board. All right, so there we are. Let's make sure we get good connection. Hit start, and right there, so it tells us right now that this DI pin is not getting a good connection. It may just have a little, residue on it. May need to be clean. I'm going to scrape it a little bit with a razor blade just to make sure it got good connection, and we'll try this again. All right, so I cleaned it up, and there, it's already done. So it went ahead and wrote and did verification, and it verified that the data that's in that file is correctly what's on the chip. So we confirmed that we wrote our file right. And if need be, say this was a bad write and maybe the file was corrupted, we still have our original file that we read out. And always make it a good practice when you read your files, save it twice so that you have a backup, just in case you accidentally saved the file that you're modifying it without changing the name. And then, maybe you filed it and then you just ruined your new readout file. So always try to save them, save a backup copy just in case. I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this, and then we can go back out to the vehicle, plug it in, and it should be able to start with both keys. All right, so now I'm back in the vehicle. I got the emo box plugged in. I didn't put in the bracket or the cluster back because I want to test these keys first and make sure they work. So this is the this is the Xhorse clone chip that I cloned one of the original master keys from. And all right, so that vehicle starts up, it runs, it drives. All right, and this is the new 4D63 Toyota chip that we programmed into the module and then wrote the file back. And that one starts up and runs. All right, so if need be, we could have always recloned this chip to another chip. I could have made them 15, 20 keys all copied off of that information. But sometimes I like to mix it up and show people different ways how to add keys into the emo box. So I'm going to go ahead and get this box installed back up and get the cluster back installed and just do one more quick overview, and then we'll be done. All right, so now I got the Immobilizer box back in, the cluster back in. I just want to show you the Immobilizer light that sits there, blinks. It gives you a blink about every 3 to 4 seconds, and the way to determine a master key versus a slave key is when you put the key into the ignition with the master key, automatically that red light will stop blinking. With a slave key, it will usually give you one quick blink and then go out. That just indicates it's a slave key. So right now with this, we got blinking. I'm gonna go ahead and put the key in the ignition over here, and it automatically goes out. There's no quick blink. Vehicle starts right up. All right, and then this is the key that we programmed the new transponder into, and we'll just watch it. It's blinking. Let me focus there, and when I put the key in, it goes straight out. So this is also a master key. All right, so either one of these keys, being master keys, will allow you to erase keys or add keys back in without hopefully pulling that EEPROM box. If you do not have a master key, you will have to pull the EEPROM box and do the job that we just did. All right, so that's another one. Thanks for watching. LakelandCarKeys.com.